Hello, my friends. It's fantastic to see you for yet another video. And I told you as we get closer to the midterms, I would be doing my best to participate in that. And I have come across someone who is running partly on the idea of it is time to retire Lauren Boebert. And I feel like that's an idea that millions of Americans could get behind. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her in. We're going to talk to her about her platform. We've got Trisha Calvarese.
Woo!
Hope I
Hey,
said that right.
you nailed it. So that's okay. So you can say it Calvarese or Calvarese, say it however you want. But if you
Oh,
want to
okay.
say it really right, because it's Italian, you just have to say it with your hands. So just
I
tell me,
heard you say that on a
yeah,
video. Say it with your hands. Yeah,
you say it with your
absolutely.
hands, and then you got it. Got it. So
Yep.
yeah.
So I absolutely want to talk to you, of course, about what other ideas you have. But the thing that stands out the most clearly to a lot of Americans is going to be retire Lauren Boebert. Not just beat her in an election, beat her so bad that she goes into retirement. Why do you think that's so important?
Because she's one of the worst politicians we have ever had. And as a millennial, a young millennial woman, especially, I find her so insulting. And here's the good news. So, against that red wave year, I ran against her last year, no help from the National Party, and I
Mhm.
overperformed Harris by 7 points. This is doable.
Real.
And Lauren Boebert, let's be real, she doesn't want to do the job. Like, I showed up to debate her last year, called her out on, like, sister, how did you vote against cancer care for vets? And her answer was the bill was too long and she didn't really have time to read it. So she can go, retire and not read anything ever again and have a great time. But we need somebody in there who's actually going to do the work. And I'm going to work doggedly for my neighbors and for my friends right here in Colorado for.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard that quite a few times that the bill was too long to read. I don't know. In my job, I don't get away with, I'm a truck driver. Well, the drive was too long, so I just didn't do it. And that's kind of an astonishing thing when they tell us it's just too long to read.
And
But
can I just even like thank you from the bottom of my heart for the work you do? Like mad respect. There's not a single person in this country who doesn't benefit from the amazing work our truckers do. So thank you for that. And that's like my platform. That's my core values is for the dignity of working people. Period.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and trucking is a scary thing right now with the tariffs and the softening freight market to go along with that. It is just completely destructive with what's going on out there. But I wanted to ask you, you're in running in Colorado's fourth district, very very rural as it gets in Colorado. and
That's right. But we do have 50% of the vote is in Douglas County. And I went to Fox Creek, Crest Hill, Highlands Ranch High, right here in Dougco. And before that, Dad was city attorney of Sterling way back in the
Sterling.
day. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. I wasn't born out there because year before I was born, mom had an ectopic pregnancy. Like, thank God she could access emergency care, which right now, all of our rural hospitals are in the red. But that
Mm.
experience scared her so much. I ended up being born in Denver. So not quite born in district. I was born at Rose Hospital, but like I'm from the district through and through.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
Does that, district catch Loveland? It looks like Loveland
it
might be
sure
in there.
does. It
It
sure does.
does, it does. I
Love
am
life.
surprised I am surprised the Republicans haven't tried to gerrymander that out yet. So
Not yet. Well, and that's what's wild. Where so 9 out of 10 counties went red. I was able to flip 2 in district and in
mm,
Dougco, where again there's 50% of the vote. We got that margin all the way down from 24,000 votes to like 1,000. And then
wow.
we have enough, and then we've had even more progress since then. I don't know. Did you see the home rule takeover that happened in Dougco? Did you see that?
No, tell me about it.
That was bonkers. Okay, so this was part of Project 2025. Our Turkey Bird County commissioners like flew to DC, met with Boebert, and we were all like, "Oh my God, what are they going to bring back for us?" And sure enough, they shoved on a June ballot. It was like a takeover to just make themselves little kings. We
Mhm.
defeated that 71%.
Wow.
71%. Boom. And then we also just swept the school board in this last election. So we're trending in the right direction. We can absolutely do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't just a question I thought of, didn't Lauren Boebert run from her last district? This is not the original district, right?
Oh, she carpetbagged on over into this district. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think it's just she has no idea about this district. She hasn't showed up for a town hall. So she really can't she's not representing our interests at all. I mean, I don't know how otherwise she could be voting for some of the things she's voting for that are hurting our
Yeah.
ranchers, our farmers, our hardworking middle class business people in our district.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Like I was saying earlier, this is very rural Colorado agriculture farmland. As we were discussing before we got on here, I'm from that area. That's I was born out in that area, and that's kind of a thing with Democrats. I don't know if it's like maybe the Fox News bubble or something like that, but Democrats kind of have a hard time reaching rural America, like getting their message across and how you're good for them. So why are you better? I mean, she sets the bar so low, Lauren Boebert. But what's good about you for the rural Americans, especially the farmers and ranchers that are struggling right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love to point to the fact this is a recent development. This is so exciting. So, the chair of the Colorado Libertarian Party, Hannah Goodman, who's from Holyoke, actually, she just flipped to Democrat and she's crediting me because of the brand of Democrat that I am. I'm one of those like
Mhm.
old school pro union, pro farmer, pro worker candidates in the Democratic Party. And we kind of, it's a gut check moment for our party, right? Who are we and what do we stand for? I am
Mhm.
100% for our farmers. And can I tell you, I'm becoming like radicalized for rural. Like, I understand why
Mhm.
these folks feel so disrespected. They don't have a voice in Denver, they don't have a voice in DC. Some of them are literally calling what has just happened a land grab plot.
Mhm.
That's their words, not even mine. So because inputs are up, they're insane. We're not seeing any way to lower them. They've lost market access with tariffs. And so a bunch of them are like, we're going to have to just start selling off our land. And guess what? Guess what, Josh? There's an app for that. It's called Acre Trader.
Yes.
Oh my God, it bundles and sells American farmland. And guess who
Mhm.
makes and bundles and sells it to foreign entities, to hedge funds. And guess who profits from every single sale?
As far as I understand, that's JD Vance.
That's JD Vance, Josh.
Yeah,
JD Vance.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I mean, that's some like unacceptable. That's literally, I mean, food ain't optional. Like, we need to be doing things to make it illegal to be selling our farmland to foreign entities. We need to make sure that there's like an estate or the death tax, get rid of that so we can keep farms in families. And then our
Mhm.
poor cattlemen, I mean, that's a 10 to 12-year cycle, right? Where you go through the lean time. This is where they should be profiting, is right now. And when you got the president just tanking markets by saying he's going to flood it with cheap Argentinian beef, this is killing their business. That's horrible. And then on top of that, we have a horrible monopoly on meatpacking. There are 4 companies in the United
Mhm.
States of America that are 85% of meat slaughter, and 2 of them are foreign owned. In
Mhm.
Colorado, we only got 2. That's a duopoly. So again, talking to these cattlemen, they're like, yeah, it's real suspicious how every time we got to go to slaughter, something happens with one of them and you have no option. That's
Mhm.
not a market. And then over in Nebraska, Tyson just announced that they're going to be closing a meatpacking
Mhm.
facility. So I would be honored to work with somebody like Massey. Let's pass a bill that makes it so we can have our local meat slaughter, but you can do it across state lines, especially since Colorado borders 5 different states. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot. That is crazy. The tariffs, of course, have just
Yeah,
bankrupted the farmers. Just absurd. And I did grow up on farms. I've been around those family-owned farms too, and you see just the absolute destruction. And yes, JD Vance, who just told us with the economy, he said, "What I need you guys to do is be patient." Now you're telling paycheck to paycheck people to be patient, and this coming from the administration that was going to fix everything on day one now tells you be patient. And then when you connect the dots to JD Vance's connection to Acre Trader, yes, be patient while he buys up all of your family's land that you've had for generations. It's just,
right. Like a literal land grab plot.
mhm.
It's so disgusting. And again, and that's that the big ugly billionaire bill. That is the
Yeah.
largest transfer of wealth in United States history from middle and working class families to billionaires. I mean, and so they're flooded with capital at a time that our middle class growers, our producers, are feeling the crunch so hard they are literally going to have to start selling off farmland.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely insane to think about. I'm trying to think about what else to ask you. While I do that, you got anything on your mind in particular you wanted to
Well,
bring up?
well,
Or
then we got our rural hospitals, right? That serve
yes, yes,
our
good
growing
point.
communities. We have about a dozen of them, and just because they're small independent hospitals, there's so much red tape and actual like BS that they have to deal with in Congress. Like they're not reimbursed fairly simply because they are rural independent hospitals. That's garbage. Like have a rep go in and go to the mat for them because these are, I mean, it's critical infrastructure. They support the communities where we grow our food. They support truckers like you if something happens on the road. And they're already in the red. And you start implementing those pieces in the big ugly billionaire bill, and it's going to be devastating. So like they're going to have to start scaling back services or just shuttering altogether. And in fact, there was an assisted living facility in Hugo already had to close. And that's
Mhm.
one of the, that's like one of the few ones that exists for 150 miles on the I-70 corridor. That is unconscionable. And that's, I got into this in the first place. Like you got to ask every politician, like, what's your origin story? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Both of my parents ended up with terminal cancer at the same time.
Mm.
And I'm an only child. And, thank God I was in a union. I was working for the federal government. So there was a policy where we had, negotiated within our contract where my coworkers could donate their leave. So I could drop everything, move back home, and provide that end of life care. And
Mm.
woo, let me tell you, I knew like there were problems with healthcare, but there was this one moment where my mom didn't quite make it to the bathroom. My dad was thrown up on the stairs. Like someone was at the door. I was on the phone and they were like, well, you're going to need to fax that form over, which like, I am a millennial telling me to fax something. It's akin to violence. I don't know how to do that. Like, absolutely not. That system's not going to work for anybody. But just the way it was like such patchwork with like care, and there were no beds. There were no
Mm.
other options. Right. And like the morphine showed up late because our care workers were coming from Denver because there's not affordable, middle of the road housing here. So we need to start thinking ahead of our aging population, how we're going to take care of them. And these are tough challenges, right? Like they're not easy. If they were easy, they'd be solved by now. But
Mm.
it's impacting people every single day. And we need somebody to go in there and actually fight for us. So that's what I'm going to do with my whole heart.
That is such an important topic. Fight for us, because I believe I've been a registered Democrat ever since I could vote, and I may be wrong about this, but the Democrats generally have a pretty low approval rating, and I think a lot of that is because we do feel like there's not a lot of fight coming from that side. I don't know necessarily how I feel about the last shutdown. It feels like we didn't really get anything after 40 days of shutdown. I like that you're shaking your head no to that because
You got nothing. What do we do? They just folded for nothing. For
right.
nothing, man. Like, and there wasn't a strategy. And like people want to see people step up for the middle class and to
Mhm,
go to the mat for it. Right. And I'm coming from the labor movement, which I think is one of the most kind of hopeful things we do have in this country because it transcends both sides of the aisle. I'll tell you, Josh, I became a Democrat. That was my great act of rebellion against my parents. Like they were
yeah.
both Republican, yeah. And I heard John Kerry speak at a rally, and he was actually talking about climate. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, that's going to impact me. I'm going to become a Dem. And my parents were like, that's cute. You do that. But we would have like really great debates. And I bring that up because I was working at AFL-CIO and I got to help shape the Inflation Reduction Act, which in Colorado 4 was going to create 20,000 good middle class jobs. 20,000. Those are
Mhm,
jobs that could revive some of those communities that have been overlooked, left behind, population is declining. It could have been an absolute renaissance for those communities. Not
mhm.
only did Lauren Boebert vote against that bill, she made sure that it stayed dead. Where even I think Gabe Evans asked to keep those tax credits. That's where even Lauren Boebert was like, "Nah, we'll
Wow.
kill those jobs." So
Yeah, yeah, crazy. I think for me, like you said you're an elder millennial, so we must be around the same age, me and you. So as far back as I can remember, it's been Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump. And I haven't really seen the Republicans do, as far as I can tell, any good for the working class in America. I can't remember a single thing. So it makes me wonder, how is it that rural America comes out in numbers to generally vote Republican when you really, I can't think of a single, there might be a benefit here or there, but what are we missing to get that messaging sort of out to rural America that we're trying to help here?
And I think it's this like, it's got to be that economic populist message that we're
Mm,
for the little guy and that we're going to take on big ag. We're going to take on big tech. We're going to take on big pharma, big healthcare, and we're going to make it a fair playing field for the American middle class. I mean, that you and I are literally part of the first generation that could do worse economically than our parents, right? And
yeah.
we were told you just work hard, you're going to be okay. That if you put in the work, you're going to be able to find a job, you're going to be able to support a family, keep a roof over your head, food on the table, and God forbid, retire with dignity, maybe even spend a little time with your family, with the ones you love. And that seems so impossible. And it is heartbreaking to talk to the younger kids where they're like, I have no hope of that. And they feel like a sense of like hopelessness. So
Yeah.
our generation has to step up and show them, no, we're fighting for you. We're gonna bring back that middle class, make the middle class affordable again, make the pathways into it clearer, make the toehold that we already have stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredibly frustrating thing because yes, that's how we're raised, right? Go to work, be an honest person, do your job, and then you keep working. And I get to a point where I'm like, I've been in this damn truck for 6 months straight. I mean, what else do you need from me? And like, sure, I have a house, and that wasn't easy to get, but like, if you talk to me about retirement, I mean, that doesn't even sound like a possibility.
That, yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and when we have the most potentially disruptive technology in human history, right? That we are in the AI era. And
Mhm.
I'm already hearing it anecdotally. I'm hearing about, these kids who took out loans or like I like studied software, I did everything right. I can't even get into the job market. And
Yeah.
where these middle class kind of affluent families are like, everybody got laid off. Like they got
Mhm.
subbed out. Like we need to think about how, like, if there's no middle class economy, if there's no buying power for the middle class, what's the economy look like? How is that going to work? Where that you create these impossibilities. And that's something Lauren Boebert. So there was one provision in the first round of that big ugly billionaire bill that put a
Mhm.
moratorium on states regulating AI for the next decade, which is
Mhm.
bonkers. I mean, one, take away rights from the states, no thank you. And second of all, that is a carte blanche to a couple of tech bros and to literally donors like Elon Musk who have bought
Mhm.
people like Lauren Boebert. Lauren Boebert voted for that. And they're trying to
Right.
reintroduce that. And that's, even, and this is we need it on the federal level. Our governor, Jared Polis, and I'll call out Dems. That's the other thing. Like we as
Mhm.
Democrats, this is a moment where we gotta like call each other out and what we got wrong. This is something that our governor, I don't know how he could do this. There was a bill that the Teamsters, it was a bipartisan bill that passed the Colorado legislature for some human oversight on driverless trucks. Pretty
Mhm.
reasonable over a certain amount of freight. Polis vetoed that. That's,
Really?
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
which is bananas, right? Like we need that at a federal level. I mean, basic like safety, basic like oversight. That's not right.
Yeah, that's actually a very important point because I've been a truck driver for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And people talk about, well, the autonomous trucks are going to take over your job. And I don't know. I've watched companies try to do it and fail because they didn't have the technology there yet and kind of go broke, right? But it used to be truck drivers would say that, well, they're not going to do that because the first time one of those trucks gets into an accident, the financial burden of that is too much.
Yeah.
I think that's changed because now we've made Elon Musk a trillionaire. He can actually afford to kill a few of us at least.
Mhm.
you know,
That's
um,
right. And he and has been so transparent about what he's doing. Like, he was
Mm.
incentivized with $1 trillion to make an army of robots to
Yeah.
replace human workers. And then you start connecting the dots too, right? Again, because of that big ugly billionaire bill that Lauren Boebert voted for, the Department of Education just made a bunch of changes where they declared all kinds of professions are no longer technically professional. Now,
Yes, nurses, right?
oh my God, nurses, teachers, right? And I will tell you, the single most professional person I have ever had the honor of working with ever in my entire life was the hospice nurse who was there for me the night my mother died, on the phone telling me what to do to make her comfortable, to get her through that. And then that hospice nurse showed up 13 days later when my dad was dead. And I wasn't even sure, had he stopped breathing? And just so professional, got me through that. I will never forget her as long as I live. I was one stop on her rounds that night. To call
Mm.
her not a professional, to not give her access to loans if she wants to get an advanced degree, unconscionable, like
Right.
unacceptable. Like, no, sorry, cancel, not going to happen. Like, we need, again, this is where we need champions in the Democratic Party who are going to talk about the dignity of human work, step up
Mm.
and fight for us, fight for that middle class.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure I understand all of the fallout of that. Like you had said, the access to school loans, I guess by making them not professional status, they're not able to get as big of
Correct.
loans, or
They can't
that's
go through the Department of Education for advanced studies, for graduate
crazy.
degrees, right? And a lot of those jobs are predominated by women. I don't think that's coincidence
Not
either. So,
not a
that's
coincidence. Yeah, I
right.
agree. I
Exactly.
agree. And yeah, on top of that, just the constant war against education in general that we have in this country. We should have started at least 40 years ago, trying to educate our population. Now, if you go to school, my God, it's like you're demonized almost for trying to get an education. And I'm convinced that that's because people in charge want to keep us dumb on purpose. That if you don't know what the hell's going on, you know, you can't
That's right.
figure
A
it
lot
out.
easier to control, right?
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
not to say like there's real changes we should be making to education. I mean, so for example, in Colorado 4, I would have stayed if there were other opportunities. Like, I got a full academic scholarship to Johns Hopkins, so I left because that's where
Mhm.
the opportunity was. I want to make those opportunities available here. We have amazing community colleges. They're doing great things. They want to work with our hospitals to create more pathways into healthcare providers, into filling those gaps. And goodness forbid, industries of the future, right? Like, there's so many opportunities in things like quantum, AI, biomedical engineering, where like, let's create those pathways now, create them right out of high school, as well as pathways into the trades. That's the other
Yeah.
thing. Well, I didn't even realize that was an opportunity until I went into the labor movement. But they, outside of the military, that's the largest job training network in the country. We should be working with them to create those pathways right out of high school. And I love to point to my IBEW 68. They're amazing. They have an earn while you learn program. You become a journeyman, and then you can go to community college for free. And you could become, that's how we could finance a new generation of engineers. But
Absolutely.
we need representatives though who are going to connect those dots, who are going to bring people, the stakeholders to the table and make it happen. Like, let's go, man.
Yeah, let's start working for the people, not the billionaires, of
That's
course.
right.
And IBEW, that's union, correct? I
That's
just
right.
want to
That's
make
the
sure. Yeah.
brother, yeah, our electric workers. So
Electric. Okay, cool. Yeah, and that's sort of a thing that I look for too. I always say, how do I say it exactly? We have an opportunity right now with the Democratic Party, in my words, to drag them to the left, kicking and screaming if we have to. Meaning, like, let's be stronger for unions and wages and education and things like that. So I guess just saying, happy to hear you say that you're in support of the workers' unions out there.
oh my God, of course. I mean, that is one of the, I mean, again, the reason like I was able to take care of my family was because I was in a union. Like, our
Mhm.
pathway into the middle class was because of a union. Like, a union, it comes with so much like dignity and opportunity. And it's a way where like we can talk about the issues that impact everybody. That, right, in the United States of America, one of the greatest assets you have is your job. And,
Mhm.
a good union job is life changing. And it's kind of where we can get like, you want that great equalizer. If you're, a woman, a person of color, if you're trans, like a union, a good
Mhm.
middle class union job will lift you up, will lift you up. So it's a good way where we can kind of all get on the same page and talk about those economic populist values that I think we really should be focusing on in the party.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, 100%. A lot of people think that, truck drivers are in the union, very few truck drivers. I don't know how you would handle that as on an over-the-road truck driving sorta level, but my god, sign me up. We need help.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's because it's the labor law is antiquated. And
Mm,
especially in Colorado, there it is like right to work in the West where you got to take two elections. It's, you have to go through so many things to form a union. That's what we're seeing with the Starbucks workers union, right? They had to like kicking and screaming, but they got it. They got their union. And now the
yeah,
company won't bargain with them in good faith. So we need to
right.
pass in the, name of my former boss who passed away, Richard Trumka, the RLT PRO Act, to make it easier to form and join unions if that's what people want.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard Amazon had unionized. Did you hear a little bit about that?
I did indeed. I did indeed. But again, where the company won't negotiate with them and then is
Mhm,
replacing them with robots left and right. So, and again, you want where it's not only for wages and benefits. A union also gives power to the workers to whistleblow, to write in provisions about how technology is going to be used, to make sure
mhm,
that it's in a way that it's safe, right? Where having that human oversight. So that, and right where nurses have a provision of that too. The National Nurses Union are taking on tech. It's one of our greatest kind of hopes for making sure that, because we don't, tech can be it can have an amazing returns of investment, but who's it going to? Is it going to the middle class? Which,
mhm,
how did we even get this technology in the first place? Decades of public investment, our
right.
tax dollars, right? Going to research and development, going to helping create these companies. So how do we get a return on that? And unions can be one way that can help kind of negotiate those pieces. But we should also be thinking about that on the federal level as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Let's see. You were talking earlier about sort of the rural hospital situation. I read about, I think I did a video on it, one in Nebraska closing recently that was kind of devastating to people out there. I don't think people realize how scary that is when you're out there in the middle of nowhere and, getting one of those farming accidents or truck accident or what have you. It's scary because it's life or death out there and we've
Absolutely. Yeah.
we've got them closing down now. I don't know how widespread it is. Has that hit in Colorado yet, or are we expecting to see it hit in Colorado?
Well, that one assisted living facility closed.
Right.
And I just, talking, going out to these hospitals, and it's so heartbreaking because I'm doing like roundtables, meeting, with the hospitals, understanding kind of their needs. These are the most like bootstrap people you will ever meet. Like they are so amazing. They do so much with so little, but where they ultimately like we need a champion. And they're telling me that they're already in the red on a lot of the areas.
Mhm.
There's some, very like unglamorous kind of pieces that we need to overhaul in the way sequestration happens and the way they're reimbursed. But somebody who's willing to sit down at the table, understand this, and then go in and fight. And so I'm doing these roundtables at the hospitals, and they'll be like, "Thanks for coming out. Like we've never had a politician out here before." And where I'm like, "Oh, you mean like a Democrat?" And they're like, "No, we've literally never had a politician come out here and try to understand like what we're doing." And that is BS. There's also not only just saving them, like there's a vision for what's even beyond that. And there's a young, some of another scrappy millennial I met out at Sedgwick, where he applied for a grant that would essentially start making the region like a biomedical engineering hub, right?
Mhm.
Like, if we're going to get serious about reshoring American manufacturing, let's go. Where's the industrial policy where we're making our medicines right here? Let's make them on the Eastern Plains. Every single medicine in the United States of America, let's make it here. Like the people like are innovative. They want to do it. These hospital CEOs, we need a champion in Congress who's going to connect the pieces and let's make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That is an interesting part where you said they've never had a politician out there before, because I think a lot of people in rural America do feel like Washington has forgotten about them. I don't know. Have you've obviously been out to these small towns to meet with people? I'm
Yes,
gonna hear
yes,
about you in Sterling and Lamar and
yes.
Springfield, and
You know it. And it's so frustrating. Like months and months ago, talking to some national Democrats where I'm like, oh man, we gotta champion these rural hospitals. Like this is gonna become a huge issue. And some of them literally told me, oh, those are small, like no one cares about that.
that's
Like, are you kidding me? Like, then we're good. I'm gonna make you care about it then, because these are the communities that grow your food. If these communities stop growing your food, how are you gonna eat? You're not.
yeah.
And these are, they're the employers. They prevent for emergencies. And what do you think's going to happen when there's, a 5-car pileup in the middle of the highway? You don't think that's going to create a backup at other hospitals and with the other parts of our healthcare system? It's critical infrastructure, right? Like we recognize that decades ago. They're long overdue for an overhaul. And they address specific issues that are rural, like higher rates of cancer. And again, some of them are so innovative where they're like, well, we're not even going to wait for a champion or, to change our federal laws or anything like that. We're going to expand our labs. So we're going to expand our labs and hopefully we can get more business from the front range. They send us, your lab work and we'll process it here. Just the most innovative thinking. They're leading with the solutions. They need a champion who's going to cut the red tape and help them just grow. That's the thing is we are like, there's so much potential. I love the Eastern Plains. There is so much potential for development in biomedicine, for development in energy. Like we need somebody with a vision and not whatever Lauren Boebert's doing. Not
Yeah,
even, not even holding a town hall. Hasn't even held a town hall.
yeah, they are running scared from the town halls, which I find fascinating when they show up in rural America and get ran off stage because of how destructive these policies are. I find that to be fascinating, and obviously you've got a long road ahead of you. There's still a primary to go, correct? And then
There is, but
yeah,
I'm just glad I, inspired other people to see that this is doable, that we're going
yes.
to do this, that we're taking this seat. But
Well, absolutely, and I think that people like Lauren Boebert make that easier for you to make the argument is what I want to say. I don't want to say it makes the election easy, but it makes it easier for you to make these arguments to rural America. I mean, she can like strap a gun on her side and wear tight jeans and say, "Look, I'm from the country," like cosplay cowboy, but like, oh, you're from this rural Colorado area. You seem to have a grasp on the lifestyle and you're willing to get out there and talk to the people about the issues. I think that's massive. I think it's wonderful that the Republicans seem to not give a damn about rural America right now.
well, and that's where like I'm earning the support of these farmers because I show up and like I'm not coming with talking points. I'm not
Mhm.
cosplaying farmer in the Dell. You tell me what you need to be productive, right? And
Yeah,
where I'm listening, I'm hearing what they need, and that becomes my platform, is literally what the people in rural America need. And there's so many issues too. Just start, as you start going through it, you mentioned Lamar, the Safeway there is going to shutter. So that effectively is creating a food desert. The only option for food now is Walmart. And on top of that, the local food pantry was receiving a $30,000 a year grant from Safeway. And they don't
mhm,
have that now. They don't have that now. So, when I go out there, we did like a roundtable. We went to the Sparrow Ministry. That's the folks who run the food bank. I'm not going with a partisan lens. I'm going as like, what are the problems that we need to solve? Because I will work with Republicans, like
sure.
if I can find one on the other side, right, to help solve these problems because they're real, they're impacting people, and it's unconscionable that we're letting it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, an interesting sort of side note with Lamar. You know the truck stop just north on 287 right by the way station there.
Yeah,
An old truck stop that's been there forever.
yes.
And a year ago, you could not find a parking spot in that truck stop. At night, it was full all the time. And the last God, I go through there all the time. Just a main road between here and Dallas. And I mean, the last 20, 30 times I've been there, parking lot's completely empty. And like, not only does the softening freight market because of Donald Trump's tariffs cause this economic problem for truck drivers. But then you start to see it at this local level where this truck stops at, how long's that been there? 40, 50 years at this point. I don't know that they're going to be able to hold on much longer
Yeah,
because there's not enough trucks to keep them
exactly.
busy, you know?
Exactly. And this is where, like, okay, if the tariffs are the reality that we have, then where the hell is the industrial policy to match, to start building what we need right now to keep the wheels running, to keep America going, right? We need, and you can't have manufacturing without energy. And again,
Mhm.
Lauren Boebert voted against that bill that just would gutted the plan to expand Colorado's clean energy infrastructure, period. So
Right.
where the hell is the plan, right? I'm so sick of getting these emails from Excel about having to literally like ration electricity. Do you know what I mean? Where it's just like, oh, we're going to jack up your rates. I know it's freezing and but you're going to have to ration it. That's insane in 2025.
Mhm.
Like, we have to do better.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been saying that all along. Okay, Donald Trump illegally imposed tariffs. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but there was no.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah,
Like, do your job. This is another example. Like Lauren Boebert, do
do your
your
job.
job. Do your job. Don't. Why are you just surrendering it? Like that's the whole. The framers figured that the people in Congress would actually want to do their job and that they wouldn't just surrender their duties to the executive branch. So, where's her backbone on that?
That brings up a question I got for you, and I want nothing more than to see Lauren Boebert retired. I love that idea, but what do you make of her signing the discharge petition?
Oh, thank you very much. That's because I have been pressuring her on that. I have been talking about that since the summer, since before.
Mhm.
That's actually, I made up my mind to run again when I met a group of Republican women who were talking about trafficking. And I went to this meeting and I was like, uh-oh, how Pizzagate is this going to be? Like, how bad is it going to be? And no, it was completely legitimate where, like, there's no mandatory federal minimum for people who pay to rape minors.
Right.
Okay, like, oh, that's a policy I think we should move on. And just understanding kind of some of the different pieces where another Republican woman invited me to the first Digital Safety Summit in Denver. And I was the only politician who showed up, and they talked about sexploitation on
Mhm.
online. This is a shocking. So 1 in 5 teenagers, 1 in 5 have been sexploited, meaning like somebody, this is, and these can be like foreign actors. These are all kinds of people who get compromising information from these teens and then extort them for money. And I met a rep from South Carolina, Representative Guffey, at the state level, whose son, it happened to his son, and his son killed himself.
Mhm.
And it might be uncomfortable, but it's that shame that helps these people operate in the shadows. So I've been talking about these issues. I've been saying I would sign the discharge petition, and I have been. So I think that was probably part of the pressure that got Lauren Boebert to sign it. I'm glad she did. But now
Yeah.
let's see what comes of that. I mean, there's probably all kinds of games they're going to play, and where are the actual like results? And this, don't kid ourselves. Like, Lauren Boebert doesn't actually care about survivors. She doesn't actually care about solving problems, because if she did, how on earth could she have nominated her buddy Matt Gaetz to be a special counsel to oversee the Epstein files when, wait a second, he's not in Congress anymore? Why is he not in Congress anymore, Josh? Right?
He had something going on with the kids in Florida. I don't remember exactly what, but
Right?
yeah.
Because the allegations that he purchased sex with a minor.
Yep,
So
exactly.
I don't,
And I
yeah.
Yeah, I think we're seeing. My thoughts on it was there are some Republicans starting to see past Donald Trump. There's a future beyond him. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. I feel like it was just little self-preservation, like, oh, we better do the right thing finally, But
Mhm, mhm,
to your point about the like Colorado, I guess, energy sector, I know we've got oil field out here. I used to work in it, but
mhm.
we've got so much vast open land in this state out east. So I would have to assume that there was some wind energy, some solar energy projects that were in the works. Are you saying those got cut in the big beautiful
Yeah,
bill,
that's
or?
right. And transmission and storage. It's right. And we got to transition. Like, we got to transition now. We need to even be looking at nuclear. And I'll tell you what, like, I don't want to be importing oil from Saudi
Mhm.
Arabia. I don't want, like, you saw the Bonesaw Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, right, was just in Washington, D.C., announcing that he's going to be investing $1 trillion in our economy. Like, no, thank you. I think we need to develop it at home. We need to keep it separate, right? What part of that is America first?
Well, yeah, you could ask that about a lot of things. What part of bailing out Argentina and then they sell their soybeans to China was America first? And as you brought up,
Exactly.
importing Argentina beef. I don't know. We must have some beef ranching in Colorado, or cattle ranching is
We
what I
sure
meant to say.
do.
But yeah.
We sure do. Yeah. And they're like, I love talking to our growers because they're so reasonable, right? Where I'm like, well, we need country of origin labeling. And they're like, yeah, that could be a thing, but that's not the cure all. And like, look at this issue of where you really have the concentration of the meat packers, which is a huge problem. And
Hmm.
like, where it's like, it's nuanced. There's like these multiple layers of like issues. And it's taking somebody who has the intelligence to understand what they're talking about, who's willing to work with people. Again, Representative Massey has a bill that would make it so our local cattlemen and women can process across state lines. Like, we could create a local, within the 5 states that Colorado 4 touches, we could create really kind of a local economic like boom by doing that.
Yeah. So they're not allowed to process over state lines right
Correct.
now.
Correct.
Okay, okay, I did not know that. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you start all these countries, I mean, states on the plains out here, Nebraska, Kansas. I'm not a huge fan of Wyoming because the wind has almost blown my truck over quite a few
Oh
times. So
man,
I stay the hell out of there. But yeah, definitely, there's definitely room to help us all out economically out
that's
here. I
right.
agree with that. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
yeah.
Well, and what's very interesting too is, there's so many challenges too. Then there's the issue of water. There's the issue of, so you're going through these droughts. There's also fire resilience of
Mm.
also how are we intensifying our soil so you can get a better yield on crops. And these, like, by solving these problems, you're creating like entrepreneurial opportunity for people, right? For like small business people. And that I was actually an idea. So I was working at US National Science Foundation, which nobody's ever heard. Have you ever heard of National Science Foundation?
I have not.
No, okay. That's like, it's like NASA's like dorky older brother. Like, you pick
Mm.
a piece of technology in the last 75 years, probably started with an NSF grant. And
Oh,
we were doing something like that was pretty, like, it was shaking up the way we've done research and development, making it a bit more implied. So the idea was to create, there's so much innovation concentrated on the coasts that you have a lot in, Harvard and Kendall Square. But what about places like Colorado 4 that have just been treated as like a flyover country? If you
mm,
can create kind of like a local economic engine around solving these problems with just like a little bit of capital from the government to help establish these markets, you can create a boom. And we actually launched a climate engine in Colorado. It's a lot of it runs through CSU, and some of the products and companies coming out of it are really, really exciting. They're starting to solve these problems. But, we need people who are going to keep championing and moving the ball forward on those. And Lauren Boebert votes against all of it. And that was actually because of the Bipartisanships in Science Act. So
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, it seems like if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but, Lauren Boebert had voted against some sort of infrastructure bill, and then when it passed, went back to her district to talk about how great.
she does that all the time. She shows up to these ribbon cuttings, right? Like, she showed up
Mhm.
to the VA in Castle Rock, right? And made a little speech where it was just like, you voted against cancer care for veterans, dude. Like, and then she booed SFC Heath Robinson, who is the namesake of the PACT Act. His widow, his mother-in-law had championed, like, absolutely, like, gone to the mat, fought for that bill. Lauren Boebert booed Danielle Robinson at the State of the Union.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
crazy.
So just
Absolutely insane.
utter disrespect, and just like, how dumb does she think people are? Like, they're not morons. They're not, and that is one thing. Her little carpetbagging move. She pulled a fast one on voters, right? Who were the folks here? They work hard. Maybe they didn't know exactly who she is. I'm gonna make sure they know exactly who she is.
Yeah, absolutely. They can get by for a while, of course, on, the right-wing propaganda media telling everybody what's going on, but it comes a point where you can't lie to people anymore about how much money they have, or how, if they're still employed or any of those things. So I think it's kind of run its course with this whole MAGA movement where you just you can't lie. We all know we're losing our jobs. We all know we can't afford healthcare anymore. Let's talk about that real quick, because healthcare is such an important thing. And there has been, let's see, 8-9 years ago, we were supposed to have a replacement in 2 weeks for Obamacare. What do you think is like the best alternative for healthcare in this country? Like, your plan's got to be better than Donald Trump's.
I mean, like, save the baseline. There needs to be a safety net. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
If you want innovation, if you want people to be able to take a risk, right? They can't just rely on their like employer for healthcare. Like, there should
mm,
just be a safety net, period. And one of the pieces where you kind of break down, like, well, where are your healthcare costs? And a lot of it is happening in like medication, right? So
mm,
my dad, his union retiree benefits covered a medication that gave us years beyond expectations of his kidney cancer diagnosis. Okay. Like, I
mm.
got 4 more years with my dad. Like, I don't know how you put a price on that, but the medication out of pocket, $200,000 a year. I
Wow.
don't know anybody who can afford that. Do you? Like, who?
No,
No,
not
nobody.
not my trailer park. No.
Right, exactly. So, Lauren, like, the Inflation Reduction Act also had a provision where Medicare could negotiate down that price, specifically on that drug. Boebert voted against that. It passed anyway. It was set to be negotiated this year, but the one big billionaire bill reset the clock. So that
Mhm,
just, like, why can't we like give Medicare the ability to negotiate all of the prices down on our medications? I think that would be huge. And again, reshoring American like medicine. We also, the way we train our doctors is archaic. It's not working. Like, we need better pathways to create more healthcare providers. Not and calling nurses, right, unprofessional is literally doing the opposite. Like, you talk about like what are healthcare problems? Like, how can we like lower costs? There's a shortage. There's a shortage of providers.
mhm,
And you got to get rid of the middlemen, dude. Like, these, just the kind of the price gouging from a couple of major corporations, and where they're allowed to make these medical decisions. I've heard horror stories about people who, at end of life, because the insurance company denied it, got kicked out of their like hospice bed. So
mhm.
taking that power away, and again, we're in the AI era. This is so exciting. So we're starting to see like even cures for things like pancreatic cancer, which my mom died from. I want to make sure that in that final mile, it doesn't just belong to some CEO, right? But that it
Mhm.
belongs to anybody who's ever been in a cancer ward praying for a miracle.
Yeah. Well, I guess you must not have heard, but Donald Trump has reduced drug prices by 1,500%. Did you not hear about that?
Oh,
Or
my bad. My bad. Well, and to be fair, like, and I think this is where the Democrats got, so wrong of kind of the messaging and the last election cycle of being like, well,
Mhm,
the economy, like, sure, you can look at your economic numbers all day long, but it's the lived experience of people on the ground. You have to speak to that, right?
right.
And our growers are absolutely in a crunch. Our middle class is hurting. Small business people, because of tariffs, are just like, I don't know how I'm going to stay in business. Like, this is not working for us, period.
Right.
So hearing the people on the ground and leading with, again, economic populism over, any kind of party or politics, but the solutions for our middle class.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Well, I think that is all I got for you. Is there anything you wanted to bring up or mention or talk about before we
Well,
go? Or
I don't take a cent of corporate PAC money, not a dollar. I
thank
don't
you.
have billionaires like Elon Musk in my corner. I'm not taking dark money. I am powered by the people. So if you want, if you even $5 would help. Go to Trisha, the number 4, Colorado.com. Follow us on social media. Like, I am a people powered campaign. And I think it's something like we have 30,000 small dollar donors, which is just like an honor. Like, people believe in this economic populist message. We're not backing down, and I'm going to fight for us. I'm going to fight for you, Josh.
Awesome. I need it. I need someone to fight for me, and I do have that banner running across the screen. It's been running the entire
Woo!
video,
Oh,
and
you're
that is
amazing.
That is something I did mean to ask you about because it is a big deal on the Democratic side right now for the voters. APAC money.
No, absolutely not.
That's what we're looking for. Somebody to just say no.
No, I'm not bought. You can't buy me. But I need folks to pitch in so that we can keep going. And I'm beholden just to us. And like
Absolutely.
we need those champions in Congress. So Trisha Calvarese for the middle class. Let's go.
All right. Absolutely. I appreciate it. All right, guys. That is Trisha Calvarese running to retire Lauren Boebert with a lot of good information in this. I appreciate you stopping by to do this. And I will catch you guys soon on another video. Love you guys. Bye now.
Thank you.